Fateh ji. Welcome to another session of Code Gurbani. Ravinder Singh joining you from Columbus. We continue with our theme on reflections, and we have with us Chetan Deep Singh, who will share his perspective on his engagement with Sikhi. So, Chetan Deep, it's all yours.
Thank you, Virji. Vaheguru Ji Ka Khalsa, Vaheguru Ji Ki Fateh.
Thank you, Captain.
Thank you for giving me this opportunity. We reflect on uh, being a Sikh, as I call it. Uh, so, before I head into the presentation, I want to start off with a couple of patterns that I have observed in my own life. Uh, I don't know if I should call them principles, but that hold that have held pretty much true all through my life. And I think we'll see examples of that in my presentations. So the first thing that I've observed in myself is an openness to transform, like ability to learn things, or rather open up to new ways of thinking and experience, even if it is completely opposite to my beliefs or my way of thinking that I held in the past. So I like being challenged to my positions that I hold, so to speak. So I've seen an openness to change my positions. The second thing that I've observed in me is what I call intellectual versus implementation bias. So what I mean by this is that I do not want to be a scholar of Gurbani, or I don't want to be an authority over like this is the meaning of every word. But my only goal when I engage with Gurbani is how can I implement this Shabad in my own life. So these are the two things that I strongly observe in myself. Now let's move on to the next slide. You guys can see the slides moving.
Yes.
Thank you. So this is that I came up with while reflecting on my journey. So let's start with when I was a child. So the environment that I got at home was one of Gursikhi. Both my parents, they were both Amritari Gursikhs, and uh, I I just got an environment where I was encouraged to engage with Gurbani, and I was encouraged to experiment. I wasn't stopped to do certain things or do things in a certain manner. There was a lot of freedom. So the way I started was like when I was a child, I would recite Gurbani, or I was made to recite Gurbani. I learned Gurbani, competed in Gurbani competitions, written and oral. Uh, like I remember when I was 10 or 11, I won many competitions, and I studied in a Sikh school. So there were a lot of divinity competitions. So I'm from Jalandhar, Punjab, and I was in a Sikh school and a lot of divinity competitions all around Punjab. So I won many prizes there. And in the school, the daily assembly was Kirtan and Ardas, and I used to do Ardas on the stage for the school. And every Sangran, there was a divan done by students in the Gurdwara that was on the premises in the school. So as I grew up, probably around 10, 12, 13, I remember I used to, I had a lot of curiosity on some of the concepts in Gurbani, and I used to question people a lot. I still remember, probably after 20 years, that so in our local Gurdwara, there was a Paisab who used to do daily Katha, and we used to go listen to him. And he used to come home for tea after the Katha. And I remember I used to ask him all sorts of questions. Uh, One question that I cannot forget, I asked him at that time, I don't know, I was maybe 10, 12, something, that does God control everything, or do I have choice in this matter? And I still remember his response, and his response was, you are still a primary student. You'll understand the answer once you graduate. And reflecting back on it, he was right. and he was referring to my internal state of mind. These questions can only be understood, or as we say, it's bujan wali gal, after experiencing knowledge when it arises from inside. And then I had this so inheritance of Kirtan tradition from my family. My whole mother's side, all were trained in classical Kirtan. And so I had this obvious love of Kirtan, and being in Jalandhar, I attended multitude of Kirtan darbars, listening to daily Kirtan from Golden Temple, listening to Katha, so listening to all and everyone who used to come to Gurdwara. And I remember I used to do tons of part by rote, like uh, 10 Sukhmani Sahib parts in a day. Uh, Especially following in the footsteps of my mother, whom I saw doing this, and especially before an exam or a result, and asking worldly things from Guruji. Like, I need the best results, or doing chali hai, like 40 shabads, 40 days, one shabad to achieve some worldly results. And all this I used to do when I was in high school, and this continued in college too. Uh, and One specific thing that I remember from my childhood was like I used to be very inspired by supernatural or mysticism, and I used to act like I was a jogi when I was a kid. I used to have this mala or a string of beads, and I used to do the mala 10 times or 30 times, like Rishi Munis to attain some supernatural powers. I don't know whose influence it was. Maybe TV serials like Mahabharata, Ramayana, or Shaktiman, but that was there. And I remember there used to be a poster in my room of Ikonkar with a third eye connected to Akash or Gagan, and I used to hang my mala on top. This was probably maybe I was 15 or 16. So these were my primary experiences or my experiments with Sikhi as a child or in my adolescence years. So when I was adult, 22, all this learning, listening, recitation, understanding, this all culminated in me taking Khande Ki Paul when I was 22. The only reason I remember I did this was like my guru said, and I have to do it. I treated it as an order from Guru Gobind Singh Ji. And since I didn't know any better what to do, I had an uncle in Jalandhar and who was closely associated with Pai Jasbir Singh Khannewale. So I expressed my wish to him that I want to take Khande Ki Paul, and he guided me, and I took Paul from his jatha. At that time, I did not know that every organization has their own rules and regulations. For instance, I was forbidden to eat meat or eggs, and I always have to wear like this weird thing. Like I always had to wear kachera, and even while I'm bathing, if I want to change it, I have to have it in my one leg, while I'm changing. And I needed to have my kirpan 24/7 even while I'm sleeping. And I needed to comb my hair and save the hair that come out in a separate bag and do sanskar of those hairs. I don't know if this was told to me by like while I was taking Khande Ki Paul, but I remember I used to do this. So next 6 to 8 years, I followed the rules of what Panch Pyare told me, who are Guru told me to do. I just followed that. I did Nitnem every day. I memorized all 5 morning banis by heart. I did not eat eggs or meat or shared food from a single plate as I was told to. However, thinking on it, I was still doing all these things by rote, doing paths while bathing or getting ready or driving to work. And most of the time, I used to mess up bodies. I mean, I would keep going in cycles. I'll start with Japji Sahib and end in Rara Sahib. And when I was not able to do part because of time crunch or work or something, there would be a huge guilt in my heart. Like I'm breaking the promise to my guru. Thinking back, I think I had become a pracharak or a preacher I indulged in Naam Simran, repetitive recitation of the word Vaheguru, and I would tell people around me to take Khande Ki Paul, and if they did, it was my duty to tell them to stick to Nitnem. So this continued till I was 27, 28, and when it was my turn to marry, my only wish was to find a girl that was Amritari, did not cut her hair in any form, and was educated. And that was a really hard combination to find. Finally, after 2 years of constant search, I found my partner as I wanted, Amritari and educated. And as fate would have it, I got married into a family that had a long association with Veer Pupinder Singh of the Living Treasure. So my mother-in-law, Jasveer Kaur, and she comes to this forum often, Khoj Gurbani. She edited, co-authored books with Veer Pupinder Singh, and she has done a lot of TV programs on Zee Punjabi, Ekunkar channel, I guess. So although I've met Veer Pupinder Singh many times over the last 7 years since my marriage, I have not had a direct inflow of ideas from him. But some of his ideas and terminology have permeated my life through my wife and my mother-in-law. And again, as luck would have it, both my wife and my mother-in-law are both speakers, students, and researchers of Gurbani in their own right. So the way I like to think of it is a small stream, it merged into a bigger stream and became an even bigger and powerful stream. And this is all chance happening because I got married through an advertisement in the Delhi newspaper. So now, like, I think the story after my marriage, next 7 years since my marriage and having kids, it defined a period of my journey where my focus has turned from outward ritualism, as I call it, or doing things just for the sake of doing, to inwards, to my own man khoj. Of course, my wife and mother-in-law had a huge influence on this, but the student or the seeker in me was always ready for this influx. And over the course of these 7 years, as I like to believe, my spiritual journey has risen to new heights. I started doing my own independent research into Gurbani. I stopped looking into various teachers that are available. But the first step, I think, what I had to do was to unlearn, basically. Whatever I had accumulated for last 20 years, I had to shed a lot of emotional baggage I was loaded with, guilt, emotional coercion. So I understood in real terms what Sikh religion or what Sikhi means, that all the things that we do, Nitnem or Sukhmani Sahib Path or recitation or Khande Ki Paul, they're all a means to an end and not the end in themselves. So slowly and rather unfortunately, I stopped doing daily Nitnem part. I guess I only had a limited willpower, and doing things by force or by will, it took its toll. And I stopped doing some of the stuff I was told to when I took Khande Ki Paul, like keeping one leg in the kachara while bathing, or keeping Siri Sahib 24/7, or doing sanskar of my hair that come out of while combing. So now, when I turn 35 this year, I feel the seeker in me has grown hungry, has grown, is seeking with much more vigor than ever before. And as I feel it is mera man loche gurdarshan tai bilap kare chatrik ke nyai. And this red arrow that we see, that's a journey to come. And this is my sort of quest to lose Appa or Aap Gawai Seva Kare Takich Paiman, or to lose my home. So now if I were to compare my state of mind while I was at probably 22 and right now when I'm at 35. So I came up with this comparison. Uh, so let's go through it. So at 22, I was full of anger. I don't know why. I had this passive aggressive behavior, and comparing now, I'm much calmer. I'm much less angrier. I was outspoken. When I say outspoken, I actually mean mufat. So like I just used to say whatever I had to say without regard for other things. Now I think before I speak. I'm more inwards. I don't know if that is a impact of the marriage, but I don't know. But yeah, that's what it is. I was very fearful. I had fear, and even today, I think I am pretty fearful. I had attraction to money, opposite sex, fame, and today I have an even stronger attraction to money, housing, or opposite sex or fame. Uh, I was very emotionally attached to things, to people, and I used to have very heavy emotional outbursts. Today, I think I'm doing much better emotionally. I feel light. I have fewer outbursts. I was very ritualistic, doing things just for the sake of doing. Today, I like to call myself an internalist. There used to be a lot of general anxiety, stress. Today also, I have. I mean, my feeling or my Vedana, I would like to call it's, I don't know, dull or stressful. I was very unaware of my internal state of mind, and I had no understanding about myself. Uh, Today, apart from being anxious, I think I'm also anxious about why I'm anxious. However, I'm aware of my state of mind almost at all times. Uh, I understand myself better. I mean, the observer in me, I can very clearly see what the dumpster that my mind is. When I'm charged with anger or jealousy or fear, I can see and feel, I can see very clearly see those emotions rising in me and taking control of me. And then I recall this Shabad, Kam, Krodh, Man, Hirlaya, because I feel that my Man, Hirlaya, I can see it. Manmukh Andaloy. So I can feel my brain, my mind being hijacked, and I feel helpless. I'm not able to do anything about it. The momentum is so strong. At the same time, I feel I am distracted. I lose sight of things pretty easily. For example, I tell myself every morning that today I'm going to stay in Hukam or Hukam Rajai Chalna Nanak Ki Kyanal, and I'm going to stay connected to myself, stay in my heart rather than outside and getting lost in thought. But then I continuously keep getting lost in thought, and then I mostly go in ardas mode. And some of the shabads that I relate to these days, and they really help me. These are the few shabads: Har charan sharan gobind dukh panjana, das apne ko naam devo. The second line, the imagination or the scenery that Guru Sahib has mentioned is really vivid. Drisht prab taro, kirpa kar taro, taro. Puja geh koop te kaad levo. Give me your arm and take me out. And that's how I feel. I just need like puja geh koop te kaad levo. And the same thing in the second Shabad. Hey Gobind, hey Gopal, hey Dayal Lal. Pran Nath Nath Sakhe Deen Dard Nivar. Hey Samrat Agam Puran Mohe Maya Tar. Andkoop Mahapaya Nanak Pavatar. So I strongly feel these Shabads help me. Uh, where do we go here? So this is a merry-go-round, and I feel that I am on a merry-go-round. Like like what I mean by this is like constant deepening of illusion of the man, or going round and round and round in my own thoughts. Whatever I do, the core or the center of my doing or being is home. My experience, my thought induced experience structure, this this drives me all the time. All the worldly activities that I do, or even the spiritual or religious or moral activities, anything that I do or feel is coming from Home. And by Home, I don't mean ahankar or garab or I just mean that illusion that I am, that Home, that is the separateness from the ik. And even though the most and really I'm just tired of it. I just want to step off it. I want to jump off this merry-go-round and go beyond the realm of my mind, or this thought induced experience structure that my life is based on. But again, I am fearful, and I'm fearful in the sense that I'm afraid to up gawai. So that keeps this cycle of thoughts going. Uh, so this is a slide from a previous presentation on one, and this is what I basically mean by, like, whatever on the right side, whatever I do, I'm happy, I'm loving, no matter most amazing spiritual or emotional experience I'm having, whatever it is, everything is. I feel I'm just stuck in on the merry-go-round, and I apologize if it feels like I'm ending on a depressing note, but I'm truly stuck. And if anyone has a suggestion on how I can realize or basically being a sick or open my eyes to the reality, or how to go beyond thought or step out of this Home-based reality, please share it with me. I'll be forever grateful. Vaheguru Ji Ka Khalsa, Vaheguru Ji Ki Fateh.
Thank you, Chaitanya. Ravindra Vijay, you're mute right now. Aileen, you want to share some thoughts with Chaitanya?
Oh, definitely. I think I could have like the entire time to myself if you guys indulge me just to talk with Chaitanya Guruji about this, because it's so, I mean, what you described is so powerful. And I want to thank you for being brave kind of about it, because, you know, it's hard to be vulnerable, I think, and kind of share the parts where you're not sort of living up to your ideal. You know, like everyone has this ideal we're all trying to strive for, and it's hard to kind of get to a place of just sort of asking for, like, you know, some ideas on what to do. So I mean, I just really appreciate that, because I mean, I feel very much the same way a lot of the time. So I can commiserate, I can understand, I can empathize. You know, and it's interesting too, because I was reflecting on the question you asked me last time about, you know, do I have a practice of Neem, or, you know, some kind of a structure. And I've, you know, kind of shied away from that, because I haven't been able to connect it to the areas where I feel I'm connected, right? Because I kind of I take myself out a little bit. And it was interesting as I was thinking about that in your talk, you know, it seems like, well, there's a number of points that I drew out from that aspect of the shift from outward to inward, right? So I think what I was hearing is you had a support that you used, right, for a lot of years, and the support, I think, was a structure. You had things to do that were external, that were kind of reinforcing. You know, you know you're doing, you know, quote unquote, the right behaviors, right? You're kind of using this as a support, right? And I think when you let go of those things, it's kind of almost like letting go of crutches, right? So, you know, you might be sort of feeling like, oh, I've let go of the crutches, but I can't walk yet, right? So you don't have these sort of the artifice structure that you've been kind of like relying on to sort of know you're doing the right thing, or reinforce yourself, right? But I think it's okay to have some of that structure if it helps you, you know, get to the right headspace. And I think that's kind of what the purpose is. I heard by Jagraj Singh Ji from Basics of Sikhi. Once he really made he made a statement that really stuck with me about the Rahat Maryada. They said, you know, people really tend to push on these boundaries, and why do I have to do this, and why do I have to do that, as if they're a constraint or they're this artificial thing. And he said, you know, the better way to look at some of these, you know, structural aspects is that if you're trying to get on this journey somewhere, let certain things support you on your journey. Let them help you on your journey, which is a very different perspective, I think, than having these things be, these kind of more ritualistic things be something else, right? Something that, you know, distracts you or takes you out, or it's not enough. And you sort of, like you'd said, it seems like that's the end and not the means, right? So that really stuck out to me as sort of, it's sort of like, what do you need different tools, or you need a different mindset? And maybe there's something like it's a happy medium in there somewhere, where if you're having a day where you're just you're not feeling very connected, and you can kind of center yourself with some nitnem, and you have more connection. I think that makes sense. I guess I'm trying to say is, I don't know what you feel today when you have those same experiences. I mean, has your perspective on that changed at all?
You're right. I think you mentioned a lot of things, and first of all, I completely agree and believe uh, it's definitely a must to have some sort of practice of structure, as you mentioned. Whether
Speak up a little bit, Chetan.
Hanji, so is it better now?
Yeah.
So what I mean is, like, you're absolutely right. It's good to have a structure or a practice with a mindset that it's all a means to an end rather than the end itself. And that's the reason I mentioned while I was presenting, like, it's unfortunate that I stopped doing nickname, and I don't know if I've taken it lightly, but I definitely know that a lot of years of just keep doing it. I mean, you know, when you keep doing something, I think probably I'm taking a break. However, when you say, like, you know, letting go of support and using them as crutches and not able to walk, I I have at least I have a different feeling of what I feel. I think, or I would like to think that I'm flying rather than not able to walk. But the thing is, I have, like, at least in my mind, and I am clear that everything that I am doing, or everything, even my journey, or a so-called spiritual journey, everything is based out of my thoughts. And the moment I have my thoughts, basically they represent harmony. So, uh, like, this is where even when I'm having a bad day, I see I'm having a bad day, or I'm being fearful, or I'm having a fight or an argument with my wife or boss or whatever it is. I can completely feel that, you know, I'm aware of what's going on in my inside, but uh, I mean, I no longer have any demands or physical demands or materialistic demands from the goal. So it's, I mean, uh, so basically this is where I'm stuck on a merry-go-round. I don't know. I completely agree with you. It's good to have a support structure, and I don't think I've completely let go of a support structure in terms of I'm listening to Kirtan, or I'm looking over one Shabad or another all the time, even while I'm traveling or when I'm at home. So, and all that is coming from a natural curiosity slash love rather than ritualistic. So I definitely have, and these days I feel, or I'm doing that part, which is like reading one or two pages out of whenever I get a chance, rather than being forced to do that. So that's what I feel.
Thank you, Ji.
All right. Thank you, Chetanjeep. I was on mute and didn't realize that. I wanted to thank you for your sharing. I'm absolutely wonderstruck by the parallel with my life. I mean, my journey is so much like yours. I mean, starting with a lot of structure, and although the structure didn't come from home, it came from, my association with Sant Sujan Singh. But nonetheless, it came from somewhere. It is very fascinating that you and I both seem to have gone through the same cycle. The only difference is that I'm much older than you are, so I can almost see where you are headed. And it's very interesting. It remains to be seen where you land up. But I will stop there. I'll come back to some thoughts. Let me move on to Gurdeep Singh Virji. Hanji Virji, any observations? Hanji Sat Shri Akal ji.
Yes, what he said was very interesting to me. Only my one question was, did he mention that he's not that much into those rituals like after the Amrit Shak, after he got baptized? So I know we have certain rules, regulations which were dictated by the Panch Pyaras that you have to do 5 banis, Mahat Maryada, whatever. But did he said, I couldn't figure out exactly, he's still into that, or he said he used to do that and not anymore? No, this is my
Let him
question
answer
to
that.
Chetanjeep, please.
Hanji Chetanjeep.
I used to do that. I mean, I did it almost for probably 10 years after Khandeki Paul. But now, I mean, I do it occasionally, but I mean, I do it rarely. Yeah.
Okay. Okay, I got it. I will quote one line from Guru Granth Sahib. I don't want to say it's from me because everything from Guru Granth Sahib. Guru Granth Sahib says, Phal karan phuli banraye, phal karan phuli banraye, phal laga dali billaye. Gyane karan karm abhyas, gyan pragasya to karme nas. So I won't translate it to you because some people may go against me. But this is the lines in Guru Granth Sahib. And
Virji, can you
what
translate
your
that
progress is, pardon?
Could you translate this for everybody's benefit?
If you think, okay, first what it says, this is what I feel, this is how you are progressing up and up. Eventually you have to go into Sabd Surat. That's the final stage. Then there is your 24 hours, you're in tune with him no matter what you do. You want me to do the meaning? I'm not a priest, but I may make a mistake. But the way I understand, you do all these basic things to begin with, like you sow the seed, you give the water to the seed, the plant is grown up. Now you keep on taking care for the plant till it bears the fruit. Once the fruit is there, you don't have to do those actions what you have been doing when you sow the seed or when you plow the earth before you sowing the seed. Now you have achieved what you wanted. The Gurbani says, Gyane Karn Karma Bhyas. We want to get that knowledge, divine knowledge. That's why we have been doing all those things. But I know to get baptized is very important anyway. So then once you achieve that divine knowledge, then you are up from those things. So this is how I understand these 2 lines. And when Chetanjeep, what he said, I figured, yes, it is in Guru Granth Sahib, because Guru Granth Sahib has a vast knowledge like an ocean. So that's why we all feel, like Ravindra, you said, you had the similar experience. Now when Chetanjeep said, when I read Guru Granth Sahib, I said, yes, because actual Rahat, if we get into that, that is Slok Mahalla Pehla. Kabud Doomni, Kudaya Kasain, Parninda, Katachudi, Mutti, Krodh Chandal, te Kari Kadi Kya Kare, Je Chare Baithiyan Naal. So to me, from the day you get baptized, you got the instruction from 5 Pyara, you start doing that, but that's not the final stage. It's just getting into school. By the time you reach the Rahat Maryada in Guru Granth Sahib, what I just said, Slok Mahalla Pehla, Kabud Doomni, Kudaya Kasain, Par Ninda, Katachudi, Mutti, Krodh Chandal, ਕਾਰੀ ਕੱਢੀ ਕਿਆ ਕਰੇ ਜਾਂ ਚਾਰੇ ਬੈਠਿਆਂ ਨਾਲ what would Ramdas use what we did before if we didn't achieve this stage? This is the actual rahat which is called to Guru Granth Sahib. So to me it looks like Chetan Deep is very much on the road to the destination. That's what we are looking forward to. Even I am trying by myself. And once you start getting a link with the Sabd Surat, automatically you will have no enmity, enormity with anybody. You will start loving everybody. You will get out the barriers of color, creed, these kind of things. But this has to come naturally, not by forcing ourselves. If I force him to be nice with one group here and the other time I'm mad, if I'm mad at the children at home, I'm mad, upset with my wife, means nothing. It's not working properly. If you are alive, you have to be nice with everybody. So this is what I think Chetan Deep, who looks me, he's a young boy, to me looks like he's on the right path what I quote you from the Guru Granth Sahib. Anyway, excuse me for any mistake. I think it's the meaning.
Thank you. Hanji.
Okay,
so,
thanks.
Hanji, Meena Banji.
ਹਾਂਜੀ ਵਾਹਿਗੁਰੂ ਜੀ ਕਾ ਖਾਲਸਾ ਵਾਹਿਗੁਰੂ ਜੀ ਕੀ ਫਤਿਹ if I in between I was cut off. I just want to know that he's Chetan. Did you stop doing the part, the Nitnem, or you still do it?
Hanji Benji. So I mean, in a formal way, I think I'm not doing it anymore. But I'm constantly engaging with Gurbani on a daily basis.
Okay. Well, I was listening to your merry-go-round, and in between I was cut off. But when you were saying that that you, anytime the thought comes, it means you are. It's not good. You want to reach the stage of thoughtlessness, I guess, 24/7, which is like Sun Mandal. You want to be in Sun, but as long as we are living and we are in Grast, to my knowledge, I don't know. If it is achievable. Maybe it is. At a later stage. But I have experienced that out of the thoughts, once you are like in the merry-go-round, and you just get uplifted when it gets too much. I don't know, it is Purbla Janam's Fal or what, but you just get uplifted and you are like everything is going around you, and you are feeling it, but it's not touching you. You know it's happening, but it's kind of not touching you. It's hard to explain because I stayed in that stage for a very long time once, a few years ago. And then after that, I fell down, and then I kept asking what had happened to me, what had happened to me. I was so happy. And then finally I met somebody, and he explained to me that you had reached at a very high level, and from there you fell down. If you had crossed that level, then probably you would have never fallen, but up to that level you can fall down. So what I'm trying to say is that you have to keep on doing the same thing, more Simran, more Bani. To my mind, never leave Nitnem, because I've met a lot of sons and high conscious souls, and everybody says that the moment you leave Nitnem, the first thing Kal, he grabs you. So even the big sons, I have seen them, like even if like I know somebody, he was about to be hospitalized for a couple of days, so he did like 5 Nitnems before going into the hospital, because he knew that he was going to be in the hospital for 5 days. So that's like kind of something, you never leave, no matter how high you go. I don't know if there's a quote in the Guru Granth Sahib, but I'm talking from the practical sangat that I have done with some higher conscious souls. And then the rest is grace, kripa. That's all
Thank you,
that I
Ji.
can add.
Thank you. Hanji Chetan Deep. If I may, take a few minutes today away from being a moderator, if I may share some of my experience and how I feel about this whole Nitnem business. To me, what Veer Gurdeep Singh ji just mentioned actually is the key. He quoted Gurbani and said that when you are seeding a flower, there is a whole different culturing that you have to do. There's a whole different routine that you have to follow, and that once the flower, once the seed flowers, then you don't follow the same kind of routine around it. You'd actually end up killing it. So and I absolutely agree with that. So I think that, first you have to follow the rules. But being caught up in Nitnem is almost childish to my mind. I think it's something that, it's like you have to grow out of kindergarten at some point. But a lot of us are stuck in this whole business of you've got to do it. I personally think that is, to my mind at least, something that we need to get out of completely. The other thing that I want to share with you based on what you have said is, we have all been hypnotized by a lot of non-Sikh thinking. And I'm pointing to the larger culture in India, where they talk about Sun Samad and all. That is not what Gurbani is telling you. It's talking to you about Sahaj Samad, okay? It's you have to, and we all get very impressed by that thought. So suddenly, there is a destination to go to. And my my feeling is there is nowhere to go to. That's the biggest illusion we have, that there is somewhere to go to or some state to attain. That's absolute nonsense as far as I'm concerned. The real thing is to be able to accept yourself for who you are, acceptance of in all of your weaknesses, and accepting of your surroundings. I think that's the key. I think we are just on a wild goose chase trying to, and it's conditioning. It's because we've been conditioned. We've been taught this story over and over again. So it's always like there's got to be something better. That's my feeling. So anyways, Chetandeep, if you want to add or comment on some of these observations, we have some time.
So when Meena Benji was or mentioned her thoughts, I wanted to exactly respond by what he already said, that there is no destination to go to. And even while making this presentation, the title slide, the first title that I kept was a spiritual journey or a personal journey. And then I realized there is no journey and there is no quest, or basically there is nothing to go. All I have to do is open my eyes right now.
There you go.
And my question is, how do I open my eyes? It's as simple as that. As simple as that. How do I just open my eyes? And how do I step out of this home is where I'm stuck.
You will not open your eyes. Your eyes will open. That's my experience. There's nothing you can do other than where you are.
Well, could I add something on
yes,
that?
please.
Yeah, I just
Yeah.
it's interesting. I mean, I think that's true, but I think you can perhaps, thinking about this, the things that you've done so far, and I know things that I've done that have helped me kind of break patterns or break sort of being stuck, is to kind of try to put yourself in a position to do something very different than you normally do. I've often, when I've come out of Vichar, or I've been studying my own, thinking deeply and contemplating some aspect of Gurbani, I will try to put myself in a different state of mind about my behaviors, right? Because I think at the end of the day, what you're finding in terms of being disconnected, right, is you're sort of going through the same thoughts. And in the past, you had a set of behaviors that were sort of connected to thoughts, right? And it's kind of all this flow of thinking, acting. And if you're presented with your boss or your wife or your kids and things to do, you're just kind of pulled into a day-to-day world, right? But maybe there's things you can do that change that experience. Like the one that always comes to me is like when I'm, out in the street and I see people, it's just as I'm walking around, right? When I'm in the state of I have to get things done, or I'm in a mental state that is very disconnected from my thoughts about Waheguru, my thoughts about, meaning of life, anything like that, I treat people differently. I react differently to them than when I have those thoughts in my mind. And I've just tried often just experimenting, just put myself in different position of how I'm ready to respond. Something, just try things. I think try different things and see what works for you, and see what break to get a little bit of a glimpse. Like say, different kinds of seva, I think also are super helpful, because you get a different, it can just sort of like let different, light in a way. That's if you're not getting it directly from the outside world, maybe it's the activities that you could change. So that's my thought to contribute.
Haji, anybody else?
Can I say something here?
Haji, please go ahead.
Aline said wonderful thing actually, because by changing the seva, doing the seva, because seva is of many kind, it's change your thoughts. And with the touch of the other Sangat, it brings your mind, cool down your mind. No matter if you're frustrated, you go to Gurdwara, do some seva, do the cleaning, do the dishes, do some cooking. It does affect the mind very, very much. And she's very right here. I buy that point. On the Nitnem thing, the point is not to stop there. Go ahead. Actually, the final supreme stage is the love. You have to even love the gurus, and the guru will help you to take you to the further up. So if only my point was, if you cannot do Nitnem daily, try to listen it and try to do it in your car, but do not abandon this. But you will be still going progress. But only thing is, Gurbani says, Badda chatti je pare, na gun na upakar. If you are forcing yourself and you are getting late to the office, your meeting and all that, and you say you have to do these 5 banis nitne, I think then you may not be right that time. You go to attend your meeting and enunciate, then Vaheguru. Because Guru Granth Sahib says, Jo prani govind tyave, padya anpadya paramgat pave. How many people were, what percentage were the people who used to read Gurbani or Punjabi those days? Less than 50%, maybe 35% people were able to read. But we don't have to make an excuse that we don't want to do because a ritual. No, if you can do it, but not stay in the karam taram. Gurbani says, karam taram pa khand jodi se jam jagati lute nirbaan kirtan gavo karte ka. That means you have to enunciate, or you put your mind into love with the God, with the Supreme, which gurus will always are helpful in between, as we discuss. Even the sant or any Mahapurush, we call it saint or sadhu, they're helpful to it. But we don't have to say this is ritual. We cannot do that point individually. But we have to proceed, read the Gurbani. As Harvinder said, we have a lot of other shabds in Guru Granth, almost about 6,000. And they are always illuminating. They will helping our soul. They're helping our everything, the anger and lust, everything, whatever we name it. Once those things come to your mind, because then you forget. While we are driving, you see, you think so many things and you keep on driving. You don't lose driving. But in the beginning, when there is a new driver, he will not think of anything. He will just keep on the steering wheel, his eyes directly, and put his foot on the brake and all that. But once he becomes expert, now he can do many things at the same time. Even I've seen the young kids, they are faxing, texting, and they're on the cell phone driving the car. So I think this is the practice makes the man perfect. So we cannot draw a line anywhere that this is to do or this is not to do. This is what you get from your inner guide. That's the inner eyes which will get open, and that's where is the love. The Gurbani is a truth and a love. This is what I think.
Thank you, Ji. Thank you.
Thank you.
So one last thought, and then I'll go to Beena Panji. Ultimately, it is not even reading Guru Granth Sahib that's going to help you. over and over again, because even that becomes a habit. But the thing is that when I go to the Guru Granth Sahib, what is the Guru Granth Sahib telling me? It's telling me to go inward. It's telling me to find the Guru within me.
Yeah.
So why am I not doing that? Why am I going back to reading over and over again? You know, that's the question to ask yourself.
So,
कि घड़ी मुड़ी मैं क्यों उत्थे जाई जाना when the Guru is telling me कि अंदर वड़ अपने? Why not do that then? Why not say, okay, I get the message, I've got to move inwards. So that's the point I'm trying to make, okay? And then there really is, you know, there's this striving. And as Virji said, you have to break patterns of thought, basically, because your body likes the sensation of the thoughts that you have. And if you want to change things, you've got to change that pattern. Hanji, Meena Benji, one last observation, and then we are out of time.
Yeah, just I'm glad that Gurdeep Vijay said that it's not a ritual. It's like एक छोटी जी Pai Veer Singh di sakhi hai. He used to tell, I think it is by Pai Veer Singh, like there was this little guy. He used to work for a cloth merchant, and oh, apna kam karda si whole day, and he used to get paid. But the jara owner si ਉਹਨੇ ਇੱਕ ਦਿਨ ਕਿਹਾ ਕੋਈ
Can you
ਜਿਹਨੇ
stick to English, please?
so okay, this guy, he used to work for a cloth merchant, and he used to get paid for his daily wages. And then one day the owner says to give water to the people who come to buy the cloth, and he refused. He said, no, my job is just to sell the cloth. And so the owner couldn't do anything. He just paid him. But then there was this another guy, he used to work for him, and he would do anything lovingly. He would just give them water, bring tea, whatever. So the same way they're saying, if you do the name, Baddha Chatta, or just as a, I don't want to use the word ritual, even if your full mind is not there, you will get the pay, you will get tankha. But if you do it with love, you will get much more. The Malak will take you to a higher level, maybe make you his associate, or give you promotions. And also Nitnem is looked at as a everyday battle. We have to actually win the war. War is like our whole lifetime. And every day doing Nitnem and finishing your, I'm not saying just stop at Nitnem. Nitnem is just the just one part. You have to do your job, you have to do your जो प्रभु को मिलबो चाहे खोज शब्द में ले. As you said, you have to go inwards. You have to, when you research the Shabad, even if you take just one line of the Shabad and keep pondering over it whole day, something new just keeps opening up, and you're like diving into the Shabad. That will actually open more paths, but continue the Nitnem. And yes, if there's meaning or something, you can always do it later on. There are times, when people finish their Nitnem at night, okay, at least I didn't lose the battle,
Hanji.
even if I did it at night.
Thank you, Ji. We are running out of time. Thank you very much, Chetandeep. I'm glad that we've given you some conflicting messages here. There are people telling you to do Nitnem and others like me telling you to run away from it. But in the end, it's follow your own bliss. Hanji.
So I just wanted to give an example that I've been thinking for a couple of days on. When you said your eyes will open and nothing you can do, so the example that I've been thinking of is that if my mind is a lake and I want my mind to be still, I want to be, I don't know, let's say thoughtlessness, or I just want it to be still. The more effort I do, it's like if you threw a pebble in the lake and the ripples will come, waves will form. And the more I struggle, the more I cause ripples. The more I do, anything doing is causing that lake to like even more turbulent. So that's what I want.
No, I agree with you. I think it's the striving that is creating all the issues. So in any case, we are out of time. Excellent discussion. Thank you very much for your input. And Harvinder, we'll call it a day. Vaheguru Ji Ka Khalsa,
Vaheguru Ji Ki
Vaheguru Ji Ki Fateh.